Hello everyone, welcome to the Lab 4 of ECE 573 Advanced Embedded Logic Design. In the previous lab, we discussed about the HLS Pragma's pipeline and we discussed how it can be used to improve the performance of the matrix multiplication. In this lab, we are going to continue our discussion on the matrix multiplication and we'll see how the other pragmas can be used to further improve the performance. So before going into the lab, we'll discuss some of the theory related to the SDSOC. So let's revisit some of the terms in the SDSOC. The first term is the accelerator, which we have been using it quite often. So accelerator is nothing but the portion of the application code which you are implementing on the processor that have been implemented on the hardware, which can be a ASIC, FPGA, or other coprocessor, which can be Neon coprocessor or GPU. Okay, so this is called as an accelerator. You are shifting the task from the processor to some other coprocessor or the hardware. That is termed as an accelerator. In the SDSOC, most of the time, this accelerator is implemented in the FPGA, but this may not be a case in the MPSOC where you have the additional coprocessor along with the regular ARM processor. Next is the data mover. In the previous lecture, we have discussed about the DMA and how the DMA can be used to move the data between the IPs and the memory. So DMAs are nothing but the data mover. They transfer the data between the accelerator and between the processing system and the accelerator, or between the memory and the accelerator. So you can have various types of DMA in the SoC architecture. When we'll study the Zinc SoC architecture, we'll see the what kind of DMAs are available depending upon the your application, whether it's a video application or the audio application or the image application. Depending upon that, you can have the different type of DMA, and they will help you to transfer the data between the two units, where the data can be contiguous or they can be non-contiguous data. Pipelining, we have discussed this in detail. It's a technique to increase the instruction level parallelism in the hardware implementation of an algorithm by overlapping the independent stages of function. So in the pipelining, we try to divide your hardware into the multiple stages and we make sure that each stage is active all the time. For example, in the previous lecture, we discussed the function which has the three units: read, compute, and write. And the pipelining is done such that all the three units are active on at all the time, but they are processing the different instance of data. The data dependence in the original software implementation, that is non-pipeline version, is preserved for the functional equivalency. So when you do the pipelining, you need to make sure that the data dependency is preserved and you don't compromise on the functional accuracy. But required circuit is divided into the chain of independent stages. Now, going back to the same example, now the function is not the one block of data, one block of operation which consists of the read, compute, and write. The function consists of three blocks. One block is read, compute, and third block is write. So you divide your function or the loop into the chain of independent stages. All the stages in the chain run in parallel on the same clock cycle. So all the three blocks are active in each clock cycle. The only difference is the source of data for each stage. Okay, so if the read data is processing the data received at the say nth clock cycle, your compute is processing the data which was received at n minus 1th clock cycle, and the write is processing the data which was received at n minus 2 clock cycle. So each stage in the computation receives its data value from the result computed by the previous stage during the previous clock cycle. So data processed by the read clock cycle in this clock cycle will be processed by the compute in the next clock cycle. Data processed by the compute in this clock cycle will be processed by the write in the next clock cycle. Okay, so this is how the data is passed from the one stage to another stage. So few other definition. One is the pragmas. So pragmas are the special directive that can be inserted into the source code to guide your SDSOC compiler to optimize your architecture. Okay, so pragmas are inserted by you in your source code. They may lead to the worse performance or they may lead to the better performance. So you need to choose the pragmas carefully. So in the SDSOC environment, you control the system generation process by structuring the hardware function. You write a proper code for the hardware function, as well as the data communication happens between the accelerator, that is hardware function, and your processor, or the memory and the hardware function, so that you make a good balance between the data communication time and the data execution time. So when you execute the corresponding function in the software, you can see that the your data communication time is very small, your data execution time is large. But when you process something in the hardware, you need to take care of the data communication time from the software to hardware and back, and as well as data execution time in the uh, hardware. So that's why you need to take care of both the things when you move something to the hardware. And if you have noticed, when we did the vector multiplication, we didn't get the improvement in the execution time because your data communication time was very high compared to data execution time. But when we came back to the matrix multiplication, we got the acceleration factor of say 2 to 3 because our data execution time was dominated and was higher than the data communication time. So you need to insert the pragmas into your pseudo source code to guide the system compiler. The processors in the SDSOC environment can be a hard processor or soft processor. So soft processor means you are designing the processor using the FPGA resources, that is called the microblaze processor. We are going to discuss this in more detail in our next lecture. Or hard processor such as ARM processor, which is implemented along with your FPGA. So in case of the Zynq SoC, you have only dual core Cortex A9 processor along with FPGA. In case of the ultra-scale or MP SoC, you have the quad core ARM processor along with the dual core real-time processor along with your FPGA. So all this can become your processor. And the last term is the system port. System port connects the data mover to the PS. Okay, so you will see in our Zynq SoC architecture, there are multiple ports between the processor and the PL, that is your FPGA. These ports are used to allow the PL, that is your FPGA, to read the data from the memory system of your PS. So there are ports called ACP, AFI, MIG ports, which is the memory interface generator ports, or some other stream ports. Okay, so there are multiple ports are there, and as a designer, you need to select which ports you need to use. As of now, we are using the default settings in case of the system ports because we have not yet studied the Zynq SoC architecture. When we'll study the Zynq SoC architecture, we'll discuss, we'll use the system ports more carefully. Okay, so these are the common terms we revisited in the SDSOC. Now coming back to the SDSOC pragmas, in this lecture we are going to study the 4 SDSOC pragmas. One is the access pattern, how you are accessing the data. Second is the data copy, data zero copy, that is how you are transferring the data between the PS and PL, and the SDS resource. Okay, these are the pragmas are important for our matrix multiplication example, and we are going to use these pragmas to improve the performance of your matrix multiplication code, which we discussed in the last lecture. So we'll start with the Pragma SDS resource. So it is useful for the resource binding. Okay, so here resource means the unit inside the PL. So for example, in the matrix multiplication code, we have implemented the entire C code for the matrix multiplication as only one IP. But why we should restrict ourselves to only one IP? Can't we implement it two versions of the same code so that we can do the further parallel operation? Okay, and this is possible using the pragmas called as the SDS resource. So it is useful for the resource binding. So that means it indicates which function of your C code to be implemented by which resource in the FPGA. Okay, and it is specified immediately preceding a call to a hardware function. So in the main.cpp, we are doing the call to the hardware function, and there we need to mention which resources it will be used to implement or to execute this call. For example, here you can see that in my main.cpp, I'm calling this mmult function twice. So I'm calling the hardware twice. So I have the option that I can call the in the sequential fashion. So I first send the data to the that IP. I'll wait for that IP to get executed to receive the output, and then I send the new output. For example, here I'm performing the matrix multiplication where my inputs are A, B, D, E, and my outputs are C and F, where C is equal to A into B and F is equal to D into E. So here I am saying that in both the cases, I am using the different resources. That means for A-B multiplication, I am using the separate IP, and for the DE multiplication, I am using the separate IP. So this indicates that I am using the two IPs, that means double the number of resources in the hardware. So this will help me to get the better performance at the cost of the higher resource complexity. So you need to decide based upon your constraint whether you want to use single hardware or the multiple hardware. So these pragmas indicate we can manually specify how the binding needs to be done, and this will help the system SDSOC compiler to identify the how many hardware need to create it based upon the IDs assigned to it. Okay, so for everyone you can see that for first one the ID is 1, for the second one ID is 2, and based upon that your SDSOC will generate the corresponding instances of the hardware accelerator along with the corresponding data motion network to move the data between the appropriate ID. Okay. So SDSOC compiler identifies when the multiple resource IDs have been specified for a function and automatically generates the hardware accelerator and the data motion network. Okay, for example, here the first call to a function matrix multiplication will be bound to an accelerator with an ID 1, and the second call to the matrix multiplication will be bound to an accelerator ID 2. Okay, so this is the pragmas we are going to use in our lab. So this completes the discussion on the SDS resource. We'll now move to the next pragma.